Hi there everyone, my name is Stuart Goodwin from Marshall Music, and tonight on Stu Chats With, I have a very wonderful musician with me. His name is Mr. Dan Patlansky.
Hello.
He's one of our greatest musical exports. He plays all over the world. He's becoming, is world famous. We're very proud of him. He fills me with a sense of pride when I see you, and I see you doing all the things that you do overseas.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Great to be here, man.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Before we kick off with the chat, tell
Yes.
me kind of what you're up to at the moment, and what's on the cards for the rest of the year.
Right. So at the moment, we kicked off this year with electric duo tour. So I normally kick off the year acoustically, solo acoustic. But I'm an electric guitar player at heart, and that's what I love to do. So I try to figure out a way to incorporate that and still be able to do all the small venues around South Africa without the logistical nightmare of the band and the volume and all that kind of the problems with the band. So I enlisted my keyboard player Dean Barrett, and we've been on the road now for the last 2 months, just doing a stripped down version of the electric thing, probably leaning slightly more to the more classic blues thing, which has been a lot of fun. And we start next week with the full band touring, which happens Joburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, and Durban. Then overseas for a while. Then I'm tracking a new album in July.
Cool.
That will hopefully be released in 2020, early 2020.
Okay.
And then I've got a 6-week European tour in October, November with Walter Trout. Some of the dates in the UK is with Walter Trout. The rest are our own dates in the UK and Europe. And then we kind of end the year off that way. So that's all we got booked thus far.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Quickly, just more about the album. What sort of direction do you want to go in, and who's going to be doing it with you? And
so
anything interesting?
Well, I think every album, you do evolve slightly, depending on the influences the people you've been listening to since your last album was released. What kind of pushes your buttons musically. So,
which is my next question to you.
Yes.
Who's pushing your buttons? Okay.
So, it's obviously going to be based in the blues like it always is, but the last couple of albums I've done have certainly not been traditional blues albums. There's been a lot more thought in the song that's gone into it. It's a very important thing to me. But so is the blues. So it's more of that. A lot of attention on the songs. I think possibly, we might go in a slightly different direction, production-wise, mix-wise. Not quite sure I haven't quite figured that one out myself, but we kind of pre-prodding the songs, and I think the songs will tell us the direction the album needs to go. Okay. And otherwise, production-wise, we're going to go exactly the same as we went on the last album, Perfection Kills, the same studio in Pretoria, and myself producing, possibly with a co-producer.
Okay.
So that worked out pretty well in the last album, and so that's kind of the vibe.
And then the guys pushing your buttons at the moment. You mentioned Josh Smith.
Josh Smith. There's different buttons to be pressed. So there's the player button.
Yeah.
Like players. And Josh Smith is up there, and he's an American. He's actually a session guitar player, but he's got his own career in the blues.
Yeah.
And for me, he's just incredible because he treats the blues like it should be. He plays it like B.B. King played the blues. But then it's kind of like, let me put it this way: B.B. King, Danny Gatton, and John Coltrane go to a party, get drunk, and shit gets a bit weird. And the product of that awkward, weird night would have been Josh Smith. Because he plays the blues like B.B. King, like it should be played.
Legit.
With soul, like legit soul. But then he will smash out like a bebop line, just perfectly placed in the blues, but it's played the way Danny Gatton played. It's just ridiculous. And on the player front, he's really pushing my buttons, and hell of a nice guy. I've learned a lot from him. He's been kind enough to show me the odd little bit and bob on the guitar. And then there's the other side, which is the songwriting side, which is a big thing for me. And obviously I draw from I draw from the blues, sure, but I also draw from a lot of other genres, like I'll draw from the Radioheads of the world, because Radiohead is one of my favorite bands.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that.
It's a far cry from the blues. It
Yeah.
really is. But there's so much beauty in the writing of those songs and things that happen in the chord changes and stuff that I like to try and incorporate. I wouldn't say into the blues, but into a blues-based type of thing.
Yeah.
Where it works. And there's stuff like that. I mean, one of my ultimates, I've always loved them, but I've gone through a big resurgence of it again. A big love for it is the Pink Floyd thing again.
Okay.
I always grew up listening to Pink Floyd, and they've always kind of been one of my favorite bands, and they've always been in that top 3 list. And I've just really kind of rediscovered them again. And
Okay. I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
I ask everyone this. What's your favorite Pink Floyd album?
my favorite Pink Floyd
If you had to go
album,
to a desert island and only take one Pink Floyd album, what would it be?
it would be Wish You Were Here.
Okay.
Because followed by like just nipping at it would be Animals. Would
Okay.
be nipping at
Okay.
it. For me, any 70s Floyd, any
Yeah.
Floyd that was released in the
Yeah.
70s was, for me,
Yeah, you
the
can't go
stuff.
wrong.
It's just every album.
Is The Wall in?
Yeah, so
It's
Wall
79. Okay.
That's it, and that's a masterpiece too.
That's mine.
That's a masterpiece, I mean, Animals, depending on that, I think Wish You Here, that album was what the first Floyd album I got into and fell in love with, so that's why it's always there. But Animals is just a great album, and so is Obscured by Clouds. That's another just incredible album.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk more about artists that you love and listen to for the song kind of thing.
Right, so short of sounding like everyone else in the world, the Beatles is certain Beatles is a massive thing. My favorite Beatles album is Revolver. I just incredible the songwriting. Even bands like the Arctic Monkeys, the AM record, they're just great songwriting for me.
And do you mean, are you talking lyrically or everything?
Pretty much everything,
Okay.
Lyrically it's strong. I mean, in I suppose the big scheme of things in the blues genre, I'm using the term blues loosely, is the Black Keys. I think they are, for me, their asset is the songs. I know it's not for everyone, and it's certainly not a player's music. Like if you're into players, that's not what you listen to.
Yeah.
But I love the Black Keys because there's so much depth and soul and such great songs in it, So for me, it's two different caps that you got to wear. So if I'm writing for an album, I've got to be in the songwriting mentality. And you're not worrying about a technical exercise or a new lick to learn, because that's a completely different, I think, section of the brain that you use.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help the songwriting thing, because you start writing songs with licks in mind and solos in mind, and the solo. You should play a solo that works with a song, not write the song around the solo,
Not the other way
which I
around.
used to do as a kid. Obviously.
Immaturity.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's nice that the evolution of becoming more involved in the song.
Sure. Yeah. And it's served us well, that, because in the world of blues rock, I'm talking on a global platform. You get your big guys, your Bonamasters of the world, and the guys that are really doing it, and your classic guys like your Buddy guys that are still out there doing it. But it's very, very difficult in a genre like blues and blues rock to be heard, because not everything, because there is a lot of standout stuff, but a lot of it for me all sounds the same. It could be the same album and the same producer and the same studio and the same players on the album, because it's produced to sound like a blues rock album. And I was doing that for a stage, and working with different producers like Theo Kraus, which I worked on a couple albums with him previously that did really well for us overseas, and more particularly in the blues rock scene. The reason they worked is because Theo's not a blues rock producer. He's never been a blues rocker. He's a pop producer and he's a rock producer. That's what he produces.
Yeah.
He's a song guy, and I learned a lot from working with Theo. And on that first album I did with him, Dear Silent Thieves, and that was the one that got us into the European and the UK market, and I suppose the worldwide market. It's because it was heavily focused on songs. The blues was still there. It all came from the blues. It might have gone in slightly different directions, but that's what made it sound different to the noise in the blues rock scene.
Okay, then let's talk briefly about what's your usual songwriting process? How does it start? How does a typical song evolve for you?
Yeah, so for me it's, I do a lot of practicing at home, so you'll often stumble on either a chord progression I like, a couple chord changes, a riff, because a lot of my music's riff based, a riff that's pretty cool, and that's where it always starts is that initial idea. Then I'll keep that idea for when I go into the songwriting thing to see if you can develop it. For me, a song always starts with just a little spark of excitement, so if it's the riff or the chord progression, and that inspires the song. So I'll take it further. I'll write parts around that initial part that was written, and then what I'll do is, if I'm happy with that, I will write a melody that will turn into a vocal melody, but I'll pop a loop station on and put the chords down, and then play the melody on the guitar that I've written.
Okay.
And if I can sit back and listen to that, and that does something for me without a lyric on it, played on the same instrument, then I say it's worth now going into the lyric thing, which will be the final stage of the writing is to write the lyrics to the melody.
So you don't write random lyrics when they kind of come to you?
I'll write
sometimes
maybe not a lyric. It might turn into a lyric, and maybe a song title.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I'll see like if once I can't remember what it was. One of the songs was named after I saw a graffiti in Berlin.
Okay.
But it was like this crazy word or group of words. I can't even remember what song it was, to be honest with you. And that inspired that song. So that's such a cool concept for a song, just that little phrase.
Okay.
So it's more that, or maybe an album title, if you can see something really cool. Not necessarily song lyrics. I like to try and write song lyrics, because I'm in the blues genre. You've got to be careful of writing about the whiskey and the woman thing. Yeah. And that's cool, and sometimes I do for a tongue-in-cheek thing, because it's kind of cool to sing. But if I'm not really being honest, because I didn't grow up picking cotton, and I grew up fairly sheltered compared to those old blues guys. So I feel that I have to write lyrics that are believable to my circumstances. Yeah.
That's always cool.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier off camera while you were noodling about, he was actually showing me a few licks, which I really appreciate. I'm stealing them.
Hey, take them.
Thank you. We were talking about improvising live.
Right.
So how much of your soloing is improvised and how much is pre-planned, and what are your thought processes, let's say at the beginning of a solo? What's happening in your mind?
I'd say 95% of solos are improvised. Okay. Just coming from a very classic blues background, that's just how it's kind of done. And I love what improvising is. I love that you're just kind of going with the flow, and on one night it's awesome, and then you feel fantastic, and the next night it's not so awesome.
Yeah,
and then you don't feel so awesome.
It's like a painter standing in front of a canvas, and he's got to chuck a painting together in 30 seconds. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not.
So the reason I say 95%, I've never ever played a solo, written a solo, and I know some guys do, and they do that to great success. Gilmour's one of those guys.
Yeah. He sings them, doesn't he?
Yeah. And also, I mean, if you think about it, if you eventually get to see a Pink Floyd show, and he didn't play Comfortably Numb solo like the record, you'd be pretty bleak, You know what I mean? But he writes solos like songs. That's how.
They've got stories in them.
So I mean, in that sense, guys like that, wow, it's just incredible. For me, it's always improvised. So when I say 95%, there will be maybe a thing I will start the solo with, and I'll always stumble on that. Wow, it's really cool to start the solo with these notes, or in this area of the neck, or in this feel. So that's as far as the planning might go, you know what I mean? And that might be the norm for that solo for 3 months, and then you stumble on something else, and then, when you stumble, it's not a lick or a group, it's a feel thing. So you'll say, this solo needs to feel like this to start with, or feel like this in the middle. So that's
and do you normally, like that lick you showed me was pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll wait till the end of the evening when you're really warmed up before you chuck that in?
Well, for me, I mean, it's to my detriment, but if I learn a new lick, that's all when I practice, that's all I work on until it's under my fingers. Okay. I'm like, I want that. I've never been a balanced practicer. I'm not a balanced human being to start off with. But that comes in my practice, it reflects in my practicing. Okay. So if I wanted to get a lick down, or a technique, or this or that or the next thing, that's all I'll work on until I've got it done. So if it takes me an hour, or it takes me 3 weeks.
Doesn't that irritate your wife?
She's not home for the most part during the day, so it's all right, you know. So I will smash it, and then also what will happen is for me, learning something at home and being able to play it is one thing, but being able to play it live is another, and to be able to put that in naturally into your improvising.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So it's naturally under your fingers. Not under your fingers, you can play it, but you can just bring it out in the right moment in the song without thinking about it. And the only way, unfortunately, to do that is to try it. And so when I've got a new lick, you got to just do it, and then so what? You'll play that lick the first 25 times and not get it right, and it will be a little kind of downer in that moment in the solo, but it'll be worth it. It's not you're not playing it the whole night. You're playing it once. You try it once or twice.
It's 1 second of the gig,
and I'll try it a couple times. You know, so if you fumble a bit, whatever, you know, it's part of it. But it's worth it because eventually it will become part of your playing, and you'll be so sick and tired of trying it and messing it up that you'll forget about it, and that's when it will eventually kind of weave its way back into your playing properly, where it should be. Yeah.
Now let's talk about another very important part of the playing thing is let's talk about tone in your hands.
Right.
Let's forget gear and tell me, just talk about your right hand and your left hand and how you hit notes and what you know.
So, I mean, maybe people disagree with me, but for me, out of my experience, I find most of your tone comes out of your picking hand. That's what I feel. Like, obviously, tone definitely comes out of your fretting hand. In my case, my left hand, but your right hand. You know, and it's just because I got the word tone tattooed on, so that had nothing to do with tone coming out of my right hand. It's just an important thing to me, tone.
Yeah.
But I feel that if I'm having a bad gig, it's because my tone's not great. And the room has got a lot to do with it, your rig in the room, but it's your right hand has a lot more to do with it. And I find every bad gig I'm having, I'm playing too hard with my right hand. And if I look at any great guitar player, and you can think of anyone, if you look at their right hand, like even Stevie Ray Vaughan, everyone thinks Stevie Ray Vaughan used to kind of saw his guitar in half, and it looked like he did. But if you look at how loose his right hand was, it was loose and
he wasn't
gentle.
doing. It was.
I mean, he had big movements, and he was kind of hitting the guitar hard, but he was kind of loose while he was hitting it hard.
Yeah.
So I find if you hit the string too hard, you end up choking the note. So you're hitting it so hard that when the string oscillates, it kind of hits the fret and does that, and you're giving it too much.
Yeah.
And your tone's a lot better if you play a little bit softer. And more importantly, your fluidity comes back, because if you're seeing veins in your arms, then you can't play fluid because you kind of you tense.
Okay.
So I found that was the biggest thing I've had to change in my playing, because as a young guy, that was always, I got on stage, the bigger the audience, the more veins that could come out of my forearm when I was playing. My playing would get kind of sticky. My tone would be bleak. And you'd be like, what happened? You know.
So also, I think what you're saying is also, you said if your tone is bad, so are you putting an importance on making sure your setup's right, making sure you sound checked properly, and that you're happy with your sound, and that everything's right, so that you can relax.
Yeah, well,
during the first few songs.
I like sound check's very important for me, because you have to get into it, and because tone's so important to me. It's a lot easier if I'm touring with my own rig, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you do a flying gig, and the only thing I've got is my guitar and my pedal board. And that's cool, and you might be using an amp you're unfamiliar with, or an amp you don't like, and there's a lot of those that I don't love. But you've got to make do, and you've got to get the best possible sound you can out of it. Yeah. And it takes a bit of tweaking, and if you're not familiar with it, you might not know the sweet spots of the amp. So sound checking is a very, very important thing for me, and the way I've overcome that, and the way I've kind of balanced it out to say, one night your tone's awesome, the next night it's not, is I always turn my cab backwards and face it the other way. And in that sense, I don't hear that direct speaker sound, which I don't like, I've never liked. So it's an unnatural way to hear a speaker, because you've never gone to a gig and listened to the guitar play with your ear on the speaker, So there is a mic in front of the speaker, but that mic's being pushed through a PA, and you're hearing the PA in context to the room. Yeah. Same as a guitar. So I like to hear the guitar in context to the room. That's why I face the cab away, and I can turn the amp up a little bit more.
Bonus.
So it's really cool, and then it levels the playing ground. So if I'm not playing on my amp, I'm not getting that direct speaker sound that's going to be twice as bad now.
Spiky. And
yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, speaking of amps, tell us about your Honeybee amp.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Honeybee in general and your involvement with them.
So Honeybee is this guy named Mark who lives in Budapest in Hungary. He's come to a couple of my live shows. I've played Budapest a few times while touring Europe. I think I met him once, but I didn't know he was an amp builder. He's a young guy, like 22 or 23 years old, you know. And he started making amplifiers called Honeybee. He sent me some video clips before my last tour. Said, you know, check these amps out. And I was first skeptical because I bought a lot of stuff online because the demo sounded great, and then you get it in reality and it sounds nothing like the demo because the hands thing coming again. You go, it's not really a vibe. Yeah. And anyway, I took a chance and I ordered one, and he gave me a great deal on it. And my first show of the tour was in Budapest, and it was there. And I played it, and it's the best amplifier I've ever played through. It's based off a Fender amp, but I don't know what he's done in there, but it's something really.
How many watts?
It's a 40 watt amp.
40 watt, yeah.
It's just there's something. It's the best thing I've played for what I want. That is, you know what I mean. It's got a lot of clean headroom, but it breaks up at the same time. Okay. If that makes any sense, there is such a thing. It was incredible. So I had one built. That one lives in London. It's my European rig that I'm running there, and he's building me one for South Africa.
I can't wait to hear it, eh?
And it's epic. I cannot wait to get it.
Will you lend it to me?
Definitely, you can give it a go. You know, yeah, you'll be sold. Yeah.
I just want to borrow it for like 3 months or so.
Only 3 months. I can borrow your watch then. That's cool. You know, yeah. We'll do a swap.
We're both watch lovers.
Yeah.
We actually when we meet, we actually don't talk about.
We talk guitars. We talk about watches.
We talk watches. But that's another video.
Yeah, another video.
That's another video. Yeah. Tell me. Tell us a bit more about the up-and-coming Clarence Guitar Weekend.
So this is year number 10 for that weekend, actually.
Are you serious?
I've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And what it is, if you don't know about it, it's 30 guitar players joining me in Clarence. I book out the Clarence Inn backpackers, the whole place. It's only the weekend attendees there. And I do 4 group workshops covering all sorts of tone and improvising and licks and harmony, chords, all that sort of thing.
Drinking.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on the weekend too. All bar action happening there. But it's great. It's 30 people with like-minded people all doing their thing, all playing, all different levels. The guys have been there, we've been playing for 2 weeks, to people who've been playing for 30 years. And the way the workshops are structured is it starts at the beginning and goes all the way up. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, you kind of get.
The beginner guys can sort of go to the bar at the end of the
day. And then the guys that know the stuff can kind of pick up stuff at the end.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's pretty good, and it's one of the highlights for my year. You might have to run a
little. Well, it's very nice that you do that, by the way.
Oh, it's cool. It's a lot of fun, man.
Not enough like bigger stars and hot musos do that sort of thing. So I think it's really good.
For me, it's important because I think if you look at kids today, the whole guitar playing thing is definitely seems to be a thing of the past, and so is any decent music. It seems for the most part. There is some modern stuff that I like, but it just kind of breeding guitar culture and music culture in general, and I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, well, good for you for doing that.
Awesome, man.
Good. And when are the dates for that weekend?
17th to 19th May.
Okay,
that's
cool.
it.
And there are still places available, so
limited spaces, but there are. Yes, yeah.
Book that. We'll put the links for all those tickets underneath, and then give us some social media links so people can like you, prod you, poke you.
All right, so
Instagram you, whatever.
Instagram, I'm at Dan Patlansky. Twitter, I am at Dan Patlansky. Facebook, I'm Dan Patlansky Music.
Wow.
It's through a little curveball thing, And I think those are the only social media things you're on. I know there might be others.
Nobody's on Twitter anymore. Nobody cares.
Well, Twitter.
Twitter's just for trolls and being horrible.
Snapchat's for teenagers, right?
Yeah. So you got it covered.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
We're out of time. Dan, thank you for giving up your valuable time.
That's great, man.
Really appreciate you having with us.
Awesome.
Cool, guys. That's all for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.